This is day 9 of YCC 2020, and we've been having roaring industry track sessions, lovely participation, lovely questions, and I think a great set of panelists. This morning, I'm honored and it's a privilege to be introducing the panel for our Digital World session. The world is digital. I think we all know that. There are several ways in which our lives have transformed. Even so now, at this current moment, that we're able to talk to each one of you all from different locations and from different parts of the world. So our panelist today is truly global, and I would say truly digital in the way we are connected for this session, which is the digital world. I am honored and privileged to introduce to you Mr. Anantha Sayana, Head of L&T, Chief Digital Officer, has been a transformer of the, has seen the digital revolution from a very close perspective from the trenches. He's worked for over 25 years at L&T in different roles and functions. We also have with us Sada Narayan, and Sada is coming to you live from UK. Very early morning for him, but Sada is digital sales of Wipro in the UK, and primarily has over I would say 2 decades of experience in different IT roles and functions, but where he has closely worked by trying to redefine the digital world and digital solutions all his life. We have Sanhita. Sanhita is our young industry professional for the day. She's the head of corporate communications and marketing at Oberoi, actually a niche property of Oberoi. And she comes with over 8 years of experience in different roles and functions in the digital communication space. We also have with us Dr. Prashant Mishra, who is the research head at TCS and primarily works with both mobility at a very close perspective from a research perspective, and also works with corporate development. We have Mohammad Mushraf, who is our young student and youth in this panel for the day, to share his perspective on how he's your voice. So he's going to ask you, I think, shape much of this conversation from a perspective of your expectations. Over to Sada Narayan for the moderation, and thanks again, each one of you, for making this session possible.
Thank you, Sunil. Hope the team is, hope you guys are enjoying the session so far. Welcome to today's track. Thanks to Skillablers to have given me the opportunity to moderate the digital world track. Digital, if I can spend the next a few seconds, with what started with just digits, right, zeros and ones, it has now become a new way of life. So in the next hour, we are actually going to talk about what digital world is in the eyes of individuals, institutions, and industry. We will discuss what digital means to individuals, how institutions could help us shape the digital thinking, and how industries are currently using digital to improve efficiencies as well as to create new revenue models or business models. Right. So in the next I'm pleased to have conversations with Mr. Anantha Sayana, Dr. Prashant, Sanhita, and Mohammed. So let's start with a question to Mr. Anantha Sayana. Digital actually means a lot of things as I grew up, right? It started with the computerization to going to web, to mobile, and now it's a connected world. It's a very widely used term. Can you help us understand what digital means to you?
Yeah, okay. Sada, I'll try to answer that question as briefly as possible. Information technology has been around now for, say, over 40 years. ever since the IBM 1401 came. And information technology has helped industries, government, business, individuals do a lot of things. We had mainframe computers, we had second generation, we had Unix, we had desktops. And it's not that digital, which essentially means that everything becomes a digit, a binary digit, is not something that happened in the last 2-3 years. It's been around for 40 years. But how is it different from the information technology world as it was 30 years back to now? And the way I understand digital, because I spent a lot of time as the chief information officer running traditional IT, implementing ERP solutions, and information technology has always helped business. But what has happened in the last, if you say about 5-6 years ago, a whole bunch of new technologies came into the picture that made a lot of things different. If you look at the internet became all pervasive. Communication, even before 4G, became something that really worked. Global positioning systems that enabled you to know where you are started becoming more reliable. And last but not the least, two more things. One is the cloud became available and popular and dependable. So which means that anybody could set up a compute storage infrastructure which can be depended upon. And last but not the least, the mobile revolution. Suddenly you had a device in your hand that was more powerful than the most biggest server that you ever had in the data center. And if you look at a combination of all these technologies, they made a big difference in the fact that a transaction or a process that you attempted to do 10 years back, it could be done today, immediately, online, in real time, from wherever you are and within your hands. And you could get instantaneous results. And to me, this is the difference in digital. The fundamental computing technologies, the languages, the storage, they're all the same. But a combination of all these things, I'll take one more. I'm sure all the students and everybody will relate to this. I term this a magic moment. Every time you get off an Uber or an Ola taxi, okay, I'm talking about the olden days when we used to get off Uber and Olas very frequently. But when you get off the Uber taxi, and then you say, and the driver swipes and says, ride completed. Can you imagine what happens in the background? The ride is completed, the map is updated, the cab is freed up, a payment gateway picks up your payment from your credit card or your payment transaction, takes money from your account, puts it in the driver's account, everything is over, and it says, okay, that person has got the payment, you have reached the destination. Now, all this happens consistently every time you get off the cab. If this didn't happen, the whole business of the taxis and the Olas and Ubers will not function. And the same thing can get repeated for Swiggy and everything else. And so the combination of all these technologies of a mobile device, the cloud computing, the storage, the analytics, the social connect, everything that happens at super high speeds with connectivity and like magic, it happens consistently. And when something like this happens, how does business exploit this technology to derive a new business model or a new method of servicing and delighting your customers? And that to me is digital.
Fantastic, well put. I think that gives a very comprehensive overview of what digital means actually to many people. So Prashant, which kind of alludes me to the next question of, while we have this complete spectrum of digital, what from an institution perspective can we do in order to shape up these different digital thinking within the youth?
Yeah, thank you, Sada. First of all, I'll just mention that I'm not the research head of TCS. I'll be taken to task for that if mentioned in public forums. I'm a scientist with TCS Research Innovation. So, and then coming to Sada's point over here, I think Anand gave a very nice starting point to his concept of digital. What the point I want to bring here is that technologies have existed for a long time, whether it is about sensing technologies, whether it's about actuation technologies, whether it's about networking technologies, embedded technologies, computing technologies. If you look at it, people have been working on such technologies like 40, 50 years ago, and over 40, 50 years, these technologies have matured to a certain level, right? And most of the time, these technologies have been working in silos. Even the IT revolution that happened, it happened in a big way, but also happened in silos. Now, there is something interesting that has happened over the last decade or 2 decades. And what we are seeing is that most of this technologies are coming very close to humans. And let me give an example of that. So nowadays you have this wearables, you have smart robots, you have co-working robots, you have humanoids, you have these delivery drones. So type of systems are no more working in isolation, and neither are they very far away from the human experience, but every day they're coming closer to human experience, and humans are actually living or surrounded by it, right? Now this is a paradigm shift, because all of a sudden the algorithms or the backend, let's say the thinking engines behind these systems, which used to operate in a certain way, all of a sudden will operate in coexistence, and also have to work in a manner that they have to coexist with humans now. So that's a complete paradigm shift. And because of that, you have to understand how to what to say, develop algorithms or methodologies that bring that degree of intelligence and autonomy, as well as make the system safe enough to work in the proximity of humans, right? So the point I'm taking is that digital has somehow acted as a fabric to bring a lot of these technologies together, which by themselves are working silos. And in addition to that, because of the level of autonomy they have imbibed, or the type of autonomy autonomous they are becoming day by day, we need the type of algorithms or the backend thinking engines need to develop in a way that we had not imagined before. And that's where institutions can come in a big way. Like a lot of my work, while I work on a lot of this digital technologies, my main focus is to come up with algorithms that actually make the systems safe, reliable, and robust. Just look at these times of COVID, right? All of a sudden, like, we have been talking about this, humanoids are probably these creating avatars of human beings, and probably taking virtual seminars or conferences. For a long time we had those in concept stages, but never had we come to a situation that actually made us think very aggressively about it. Now this is a perfect time where all of a sudden we would like to have a avatar of ourselves sitting in some virtual conference room, on some virtual or podium over there, and speaking to a virtual audience over there, right? So I think things have shifted in the last decade or 2 decades. They have become very closer to human beings, and the need to become more autonomous and come up with algorithms and techniques that actually makes our systems work in tandem to human beings is what is happening now. And this will accelerate as we go forward in the future, and that's where institutions and research organizations can play a very big role. So thank you, Sada.
Thank you, Prashant. That helps. Sanhita, from a professional perspective, right? You have been with Oberoi for the last, or in the hotel experience industry for the last 10 years. You are where digital has actually met the physical experience, right? So from your perspective, I just wanted to understand what digital means to you, and what digital initiatives do you run at your workspace?
Sure. Thank you for the question. Um, um, I think I'll just kind of break that into two parts. I mean, technically speaking, any sort of electronic communication really would be digital, would be a part of the digital world. But I think taking away and steering away a little bit from the tech part of this whole thing, to me, I'd say, like you said in the beginning, digital is really, it's become a way of life now. So be it in the form of consuming entertainment, be it business, be it virtual needs, be it just simple things that get you through a regular routine in a day. Things as simple as just a WhatsApp call. It's kind of seeped into our regular days. to the extent that, when the IT boom and everything happened, this was a subject to study. It was a subject to specialize, and of course that stays on, but now it's become so much more. It's around you, it's what you consume, it's what you do in a day. So it's become a way of life, really, in your personal life as well as in your professional life. So that is what I think the digital world means to me. As far as initiatives are concerned, it's going to be tough to kind of single out initiatives, because everything that you are doing in a day, it's either running on technology or it's being supported by technology or supported by digital gears and machinery. So slightly difficult to single out projects, but I think I'll speak in context to COVID, and I'll speak in context to our existing and current world events around us. So I'm a part of the hotel industry, of the hospitality industry. Now, when COVID really hit us, the first thing that we had to do is think on our feet, quickly come up with creative solutions. And that also, in a way, I think, like one of our senior panelists were just mentioning, it kind of pushed us and accelerated a number of things for us. So the first thing that we did was to digitize menus and to make payments completely contactless. So my contribution over there was in terms of kind of reformatting, redesigning, getting it out into the market, talking about it, letting people know, making them aware of all of those initiatives, really. The second initiative that I could possibly kind of quickly touch upon was the home delivery model. Now, for a hotel, at least for the brand that I work for, it was a first for us.
Right.
So to quickly kind of develop this whole system and get it going and get all the promotional communication out while we were just virtually connecting with each other, I think that was a huge digital virtual project, really, so to say. So, I mean, I'd like to talk about just those two, as much as there are several others that I can talk about, but yeah, those two, yes.
Fantastic. Yeah, that helps you think that, irrespective of what stream they come from, it is that nimbleness that helps them to actually contribute to a business situation, right? Thank you for that. So Mohammed, students, these days, as every panelist communicate, digital kind of surrounds them, right? So the students these days have grown up with digital around them. So how does digital, or what's your perception of what digital means to the youth?
Okay, thank you, sir, for the question. And actually, I would like to come up with one, like, if I'm saying, as a student, for me, digital means all about transformation. Look, what we had the world in past 3 years or maybe past 5 years, it's not that day today. Everything has been digitally transformed, from making the lifestyle easier, or it may be in any sectors. It may be in the medical sectors, or it may be in the daily service sectors, or anything. The transformation which has been brought by from past years, what we have been done with the procedures we have been going, as our Ananda sir notified over here earlier, the CAP system, or anything related to the communication system we are going on, as we are having a conference right now. The transformation which we've been brought from those past years or to this year, the current scenario, how our lifestyle becomes very simple. This is what the digitally this as a student, as a growing up citizen, what we look into that, what everything gets easier to us. It may be in any field. If it is getting easier to us with any electronic devices or any technologies that is coming, it might be AI, ML, and all these technologies coming into the space right now, and it's been going right now for the betterment of the lifestyle, betterment of human lifestyle. And this all coming together in a sector and working together, getting it into the help of the humankind in many forms to assist them in particular areas, or it might be in any situation. Nowadays, because of the digitally, the medical field is being advanced many more, which really helps the humankind, because we are in a situation where we need a medical assistant very strongly. And it might be the lifestyle procedures, because the world is right now very competitive and everyone is running out of the time. And this technological assist which brings into the playground, into the field, which makes really transformation for the humankind, is what we look as in digital world. We are coming up, growing an innovative world or digital world. I would rather say the transformation from the past 10 years or 20 years to now is what we see all about that. Yeah, this is something which is marvelous, yeah, amazing.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mohammed. So given the size, given the variety, right? Mr. Anantashana, this is for you. When you look at qualities of a youth, right? So you can actually slice and dice in various ways, right? So what do you expect to see from a youth perspective, from whatever education that they have had so far? What are the things that you would expect to see in a youth from an industry perspective?
Whenever we look at hiring somebody, or whenever you look at a young candidate and try to see whether she or he can be interested with a job, can be interested with a project, can be interested with a work, should we hire that person? Should we put that person here? Two very fundamental things come into the play, and that has helped me over the many years that I've been in the industry to hire some great people. I've also realized a few mistakes that we have made, and that has given me some learnings about what to look for in people. Step number one, as a student, you are pursuing some career, some academic course. Maybe you are learning artificial intelligence, you're learning machine learning, or you're learning just to become a full stack developer. You're learning how to write code, you're acquiring proficiency in a particular platform, a database, a network, or something like that. Now, your ability to understand and imbibe what is something that you have learned and be a master at that is fundamental. If you come to me and claim that I am a database specialist, you better be good at database specialist. And you better know what is the current thing in it, what did you learn, what is the database world expected to be in the next 1 year, how are you gearing up to keep pace with it. So technical proficiency in whatever is your chosen field is fundamental to your existence. But that alone is not enough. While you cannot ever do without it, two things are required for a person to be successful: is enthusiasm and attitude. When I look at somebody, I want to see enthusiasm in her face. Enthusiasm translates into an ability to, or an interest to learn. When you come out of college, there is so little domain that you can ever learn. You can't come out of college and join a hotel hospitality industry and know what to do. Nor can you join a manufacturing industry or a construction industry like mine and know what to do. But what helps you there is your enthusiasm and ability to learn. And the third one is attitude, that I will be humble. I know a lot of things, but I will learn more, and I will identify with what my organization, my potential organization is attempting to do. I will align with that objective, learn, and go along with that journey. Every time you meet a young person, somebody does the technical interview and figures out whether point number one, which is technical proficiency, that's easy to gauge, right? You give somebody a test, you ask some technical questions, you know whether that person is technically proficient or not. But for you to gauge whether that person is enthusiastic and that person has the right attitude to learn and to know, these are three things that I think would make young people successful.
That's really good. Helps from to understand both from a specialist perspective as well as the soft skills that you need to have in order to kind of gain traction, right? Prashant, if you could help us understand that as a student, you have studied them, you are ready to be exploring this in a chosen field of yours. How does internships kind of help you help a youth go from whatever they have learned to whatever they should do in the future to an industry? Where does the institution do a part there, and how does internships help there?
Yeah. Thanks for that. It's a very good question. In fact, I wanted to bring up this point in the course of discussion. See, I think one of the, and let me just take it a little bit higher level and then come to this point. So one of the biggest problems, I would say, or observations I have seen in the ecosystem is that students are very impatient. And all overnight, I think everybody, because of this entire drive of AI ML, I think overnight everybody has become an AI ML specialist. Okay. Now the fun part is that I think when I was also a student and I was studying, I think we have learned a lot of computing techniques, and people don't relate to the fact that they are also part of making systems smart or intelligent, right? They believe AI ML is some new monster all of a sudden and we need to master that, which is not the case. So essentially AI ML has bought a pool of techniques that people have always worked on and brought it under an umbrella now. Okay. And high-end tech companies have built horizontal platforms out of it, which make people easier to work on these techniques, right? Because there's a lot of math and statistics involved in it. And these platforms amortize some of the difficulty in digesting those concepts, right? So one of the fundamental problems I see is that people try to jump a lot. They don't stick to the basics. Whatever they're trained in, they don't give attention to that. And because of impatience, they try to accelerate the process of becoming good at something for which they may need a bit more time. Now, internships actually, and the second point is that there's a huge gap between theory and practice, in the sense that the way curriculums are structured or the way subjects are delivered, taught, there's a theory aspect to it, but a lot of students actually are not able to convert that theory and use that in a practical problem. Okay, and that's where the internships kick in. Wherein I think when people come to intern in a lab and with me, I think we work on very practical problems. And the way we also do is that it's not about just building some platform, orchestrating some platform. It's about starting with some very core things. And so essentially what we do is that we first of all give them a very good sense as to the type of work that you do, how is it going to impact the larger system, and what is the special thing that or the specific focus that you should be solving, specific problem you will solving here. So I think internships actually help to bridge that gap. So they have learned something in college, and when they take an internship at a place, they are able to find a way out as to how to apply that theory in a practical application. And I'll probably give some very simple anecdotes here. Means these are some things I sometimes in my free time I think about and laugh about it sometimes. I keep on interviewing students for internships, and the question probably I would ask them is that what interests you and what you would like to work as part of internship program. These are some things we do, but what would you personally prefer? And the answer is very standard, saying that we want to work on some AI ML problems. Okay, and then I will probably tell them that okay, why don't you give yourself a score? So 0 being you are not good at, you are the least good in AI ML, and 10 being you are the best in AI ML. So what's the score you give for yourself? And most students or potential interns I'll be talking to, they will score themselves a 9 out of 10. Okay. So what I do then is that I say that, okay, this is my benchmark. So I'll tell them that 10 is basically a Nobel laureate in AI ML. 9 is basically Harvard professor. Now you tell me where you stand. Okay. So essentially, so the point I want to drive here is that these fields are highly I think you need to spend time in these fields, understand the technical details to become good at it. The problem is that because of the existence of these platforms and a lot of this cookie jar solutions or platforms available with you, you somehow don't understand the monster behind it. And because you don't understand the monster behind it, when a problem arises, you're not able to debug it. I think the biggest problem is students are very, very poor in debugging. When you're given a problem and you tell them, okay, use this platform, do something, they will be able to somehow mash up the solution and put it together. But as soon as they get stuck with the problem, or let's say the results are not improving beyond a certain level, they have no idea as to why that's not working. And it all is the fact that they don't understand the concepts behind that particular AI/ML technique that well. Okay, and I think that's where internships actually help a lot. And if folks end up working with me, I actually grill them on these things a lot beyond anything else. So I think I encourage students to take up internships as much as possible. And when they're working on in the internships, it is preferred that rather than just working on any orchestrating solutions, they probably focus on this very core skills, because that is what will stay with them for a very long time.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So what I hear also from the experience is that when we learn something, right, there is a way that we learn, right, and we think we are the kings and queens of whatever we have learned, right, and then you apply things in practice, then you learn that, or you understand that, oh, you have to unlearn a lot of things that you have learned, yeah, and then you practice, right, which kind of leads me to the next question to Sanhita. So can you just tell us from your experience on how this transition has occurred, right? From a student to a career, and then how take us through your experience of how this transition has occurred and how you were able to align it to the work quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd be very excited to talk about this actually. I mean, nothing is easy and nothing is difficult. And when I went through that transition of moving out of, I am a Christ College student. So as I moved from Christ to getting my first job, the one thing that I wanted to do is actually do a lot of internships while I was in college. So that kind of gave me mini projects to work on, and that also helped me get a flavor of what work is like. How do lunch breaks work, while you are with a team? Because you don't really have a recess of 40 minutes or 20 minutes where you get to nicely sit and chat with people. And so how does it really work? What's a working lunch? And, it kind of opened up my mind to a lot of things, gave me a little flavor. And I feel like the one thing that I'd like to express over here is that to all the students who are listening in, is that don't be embarrassed of asking questions, because all your seniors out there who are your immediate reporting managers or your bosses, they know for a fact that you're a student. So like Anand sir was saying, that have the right attitude. Don't worry so much about not knowing things. So take advantage of the fact that your seniors already know that you are not an expert. So don't be fearful of asking questions. In fact, you must reach out, be curious, be eager to learn. Don't fixate on things is what I would say, because sometimes you go by what Michael Porter said in a marketing module in theory, right? And you're like, okay, I think this is how it works, and maybe when I try to apply it, this is what's going to happen, and hence I will know the result. But actually, that's not how it works, because obviously context has changed, applications change basis on industry. So yeah, there's no point fixating. Be as open as you can be in terms of learning, unlearning, trying to get different perspectives. So I think being open and curious helped. Yeah.
Excellent.
I think, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah. So just to add to it, right? Working lunches are fantastic in a corporate world. Sometimes you do have lunch from your desk, given the list of things that you need to finish. But most of it, most of the organizations that I've seen use working lunch as a way to connect with more people, have a mental space apart from work. So those are all going to be fantastic to the youth who's listening in, right? So in terms of, so which brings me to the next question to Mohammed. So what kind of channels or activities as youth that you do, right, to keep abreast of the new advancements in this field, so that you are ready for your next opportunity?
Yeah, okay. Thank you, sir, for the question. And really, if I'm giving a clear insight from what we do in the college levels, or what as a student, I'm an engineering student pursuing civil engineering. So what as a student, or also what the students like to have is, we like to bring on the innovative programs in the level of college, in the college level stages. We have the organization like IEEE or any other organization working for.
Sorry,
Mohammed,
Mohammed.
I don't think we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry, Mohammed. Unfortunately, we can't hear you.
Hello.
Yeah, now it's audible. Can you just repeat the last minute of what you're trying to say?
Okay, really sorry for that. As I was saying, that the organizations like, it might be IEEE or any innovative cells, or any startup promoting cells, or any related communities in the college level itself, which brings the professionals, industrialists, professionals from academia and professionals from industries with renowned experience in these technologies, which come up with the helping the students, assisting the students to get into the knowledge of this digital world or any other technologies related one. So these hands-on workshops or anything related to this can bring the students, feel that we can work on this, we can work on particular field, so we can excel in this and this area. So this is my strength, and this is what I can do for that. A clear guidance from the professionals from different sectors, which through these organizations coming into the college, so that it get an equal opportunity for the students, which has been giving to one by one, which has been assisted, nourished by one. So this is a platform where we can gain knowledge with that and work on it. So these all aspects are also giving an exposure, as Prashant sir already notified, giving exposure to the industry, because I personally feel that as a student, there is a big gap between the campus world and corporative world. There is a big gap. What corporate world needs, that is not being taught in the campus world. What campus world is teaching, that is not needed by the corporative world. There's a big, huge gap between this. And this gap is filled by the bridge, by internships, or such activities which is being going on through the college. And this gap is built up by a bridge. And that's all we going on doing that, so we can get innovated into that. Thank you.
Fantastic. From when I look at it from an industry perspective, you always need industry is like a big organism, right? It grows. We kind of feed in some fresh blood from time to time, because as Mr. Anantachena rightly pointed out, what we need is an organization with some fresh thinking, and people who are always nimble on their feet, who contribute to the better purpose of the organization. So from an industry perspective, right? What would be your advice, Mr. Anantachena, on areas that youth needs to focus in order to be more successful?
I think by definition, youth will join an organization at a entry level. So organizations like ours induct thousands of graduate engineer trainees every year. So there is I think the IT industry also does that, recruiting youngsters, freshers into the stream. every year. So there's always an influx of fresh talent, young blood that comes into the organization, that gives the organization some fresh thinking. What makes a young person come into that organization and be successful is that the ability of that person to relate what that person has learned to what that organization is trying to achieve. If you take the example of AI and ML, a person could have learned 10 algorithms, he could have learned 4 programming languages in which he is writing code, and he could have figured out how to construct a model and how to do everything. Now, if you are doing that and that is all you know, that is not going to make you successful. The moment you use that knowledge to apply it to something, and I said, I use this model, I tried this model, then I went to another model, I did this, and I implemented a solution, and that resulted in more customers coming into the restaurant. I did something, it resulted in some work that used to take 25 days to get completed in 10 days. Different industries, right? Whether you're in manufacturing, projects, hospitality, whatever. So the moment you are able to do an application of what you have learned into something that you are working on, and you see that success and learn, and a person who has got a couple of these learnings of success, of the application of technology into something that creates value for the organization, and that value for the organization in terms of what that organization is trying to do. Is that organization trying to maximize footfall? Is that organization trying to improve efficiency or productivity, or improve the number of bottles of something that they are manufacturing per minute? So if you relate to that and you see success in your first 6 months, 1 year, that sets you up as a very different individual from someone who just learned something in college to someone who at the end of 6 months or 1 year has seen that, yes, what I learned can make a difference to that company. And then you start identifying yourself with the things that your organization is doing, and you start contributing to saying, look, we did this last month, can we do something else now that can do even better? And that's the way to grow for young people.
Oh, that's really good, right? So what you're saying is that apart from being specialist, have a kind of a multifunctional thinking hat on how you can positively contribute to an organization's goal, right? So, Mr. Prashant, how does if I can kind of formulate this question in this way, that this requires you to have skills in order to approach things with a new perspective, as well as explore things and learn, right? What would be your key advice to youth in order to help them get internally enabled for this?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Now, this is again from my observation of people I have worked with, and when I was a student studying, and how I went off my career. I think one of the fundamental learning certain artifacts is really good, but one key thing that is missing is our lack of systems thinking. So when we are looking at a problem, we don't look at it as a systems problem. Okay. Now, what do I mean by systems thinking? So essentially, when we work on something, we are too buried into a very small module, and we want to make it really the best or the perfect. But then if you look out of that small module and see what are the other sub modules around it, maybe there is something, some information, some other module is giving that will help this module that you're working on, and you do not actually have to really invest so much time and effort into it, right? So essentially the point I'm driving is that trying to see a problem at a systems level and how different components in the system work together, what each one does, and if you have to find a solution, what is the best point in that system where a solution will make the most impact, is a learning that you have to learn over the years, right? So that's a fundamental piece missing in a lot of people who actually enter industry, and that's a fact because folks have not worked on such things before, right? But I think this is something they have to keep in mind as they grow along the career. Secondly, from a deep skill point of view, I think see one of the things that I'm always a bit setback with is that people spend 4 years learning engineering. At least in India, that's the prominent degree here, right? And they will then move on to a software a job in an IT company or a process company, and so on and so forth. The thing is that people don't take their engineering studies very seriously, okay, because that's the bread and butter of, that's the domain, that's what you're known for, that's what you're supposed to good at. So I think saying that engineering doesn't matter and what I will do in the last 6 months of my engineering, or when I enter a company, that 6 months orientation will help me in everything, I think that's, I believe, is a shortcut to it. I think you should be good in your 4 years of degree. And in that, I think, given the way how world is changing and how things are progressing, I think you need to be very good in maths and stats, okay, because that is becoming the foundation of everything that is happening now and going to happen in the future. Along with that, you should be good in one specific programming language. For example, when I was studying, I used to say that I was good at C, and I have stuck on to that programming language for since now till now also. Whereas I think people, the newer ones coming like Python and so on variants, right? But keeping that aside, what I'm saying is that there should be one programming language, whatever you believe you are comfortable with, or you believe that's what is happening now, you should become very good at it. So that whatever theory or solution that you have in your mind, you are able to translate that into a working solution. Okay. See, programming language is a mean to express yourself. It's just a language. I know English, I know Hindi, I know XYZ languages. So what those languages help me is that I'm able to translate my thought and my mind to the person I'm speaking to. So programming languages are of that kind. So whatever your thought about a solution is of mind, you are able to translate that into a solution by using that programming language. So as I said, be good at your 4 years academic curriculum. Be out of the academic curriculum, you should be good in stats and maths part of it. If you are looking to become really, impactful in a technical way, and then be very good in one programming languages that you will be able to take along and be able to translate your thought into a working solution. So that's my message over here. Thank you.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So when you look at it from a digital perspective, this is a fantastic question that has been asked as well. Digital things change at a very, very high speed, at a high velocity, right? With new organization coming in, they use technology in a way that it disrupts our what the new ways of working, right? So Sangeeta, so how do you adapt and be on a constant learning mode so that you are always at the best of your abilities?
Sure. No, thank you for that again. And incidentally, at our workplace, we were discussing this with our bosses and with our colleagues that, disruptions are always going to be there. And if we were to think that this was the final and the last, we'd be naive in thinking of the whole thing that way. So disruptions will always be there. And one is that I think it's always important to have at your workplaces as individuals, as professionals, it's always good to have an alternative and a plan B. But having said that, I think what I do to kind of consistently be on the learning mode is that I actually mix up a lot of things. So I'm actually trying to kind of also relate to what my friends do and what colleagues who are, in my age group do to be able to be learning consistently. So I personally mix up a few things. So I listen to a few podcasts. I listen to, a lot of, I read a lot of articles on LinkedIn. I think I follow a couple of key opinion leaders and industry leaders on Twitter. Also, what I do is on Instagram, especially, I tend to follow a lot of brands who are really proactive. I'm talking the likes of a Fevicol, Amul, Netflix, Zomato, Swiggy, because when there is a world event, these brands are really the first ones to react to it. So when I follow them, I see how they are reacting to these world events that are happening around them. They react in different ways, right? So sometimes it is just a satire. Sometimes it is just very, very seriously and sincerely being a part of a movement. So that's how I get to know. The other thing is that the world is really your oyster today when it comes to keeping yourself abreast and updated. So what I do is I have actually very recently, I found interest in graphic design, and I am into marketing and communications, but I know little about really like technical design. So I signed up for a course on Udemy. So I think these e-learning platforms have opened up like this plethora of learning opportunities. They are cost effective and great value, very instructor led, simple to follow. So what I do is I just mix up a lot of things so it doesn't become mundane for me. So yeah, so that's
Great.
what.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So it's like, we have tools enabled in order to learn at our own pace, like Udemy, as the right example that you suggested. Yeah. So given that we have the last few minutes, I want to concentrate on a topic that I really love it, entrepreneurship or career, right? Mohammed, give us the youth perspective, from your perspective, on what is your take on entrepreneurship versus going in a career route, and what do you prefer and why?
Thanks for the question. It's really an interesting one, actually, because at the current scenario, what we see over here is all the students, those who are graduating from either from engineering or from any other degree courses or any PG or any other courses, want to become an entrepreneur, want to start their own startup and business. I think might be because of two reasons. One might be the blood in the youth, because they don't want to be someone's under, they want to boss. Yeah, I want to be the boss. Maybe that blood. And maybe the other reason that because of the low job writing going right now, because as we everyone know, we everyone get to know that, yeah, this is our economy is coming down, this much job opportunities coming down. At this current scenario, being an entrepreneur or starting our own startups and giving an opportunity to other youth or to contribute with their skills is really something very great. I personally feel it is something very really great to start our own business, so that we can also enrich in that. So also we can give opportunities to the colleagues or other young graduate students coming out with the skills. Means everyone has particular impact on that. And currently we are very blessed to have many startups assisting programs like Kerala Startup Mission or anything in over here in Kerala, which assists the students to bring or startup to make their own startups grow into the communal world. Because we make an identity when we come into the startup world, when we make into that, when we work on it, we actually understand what's the real world is right now. Because I personally feel that if we are going into a corporative any companies which is very well brand companies, we get a particular job there to do. You are assigned with some particular task, you are assigned with some particular project. But when it comes to in case of your own startup, we get a vision of all things. Yeah, I'm getting, yeah, this is what going on right in the world right now. I get many failures over there. So at one point of the time, maybe after 30 years or 40 years, maybe after 50 years, at one point of my life, yeah, I have seen this. I have seen this before, I have tackled this before, which makes a person very strong there over there to stand financially, also the mentally. So personally, I feel as a current youth, as the trend is going on, everyone want to start a startup, because as I said, it might have a bigger impact on that Josh blooded youth right now, because everyone want to be the boss, everyone want to earn a lot. So that might be a bigger impact, but also because giving and getting an opportunity, getting our starting our own business makes a student or a graduate personality growth from all the angle. It makes us shine very brighter.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mohammed. Mr. Anantachana, we always promote entrepreneurial spirit within our organizations, right? So not that youth has to only follow the entrepreneurial kind of the stream. They can be within a career, but at the same time be entrepreneurial in thinking, right? How does L&T help and promote this culture?
I think if you look at a function like digital, by design, everything is in digital is entrepreneurial, because you're doing something that has not been done before. You are exploiting an opportunity that didn't exist before, or that something that opens up a new vista for doing something that you were not doing before. So in some functions, it is relatively easier to be entrepreneurial. So the team that works with me is mandated to constantly explore what new things can we do. So there is one stream which is working on what are the new technologies that are coming up. You look at it from a technology perspective and say, hey, there is something that you can do with a new technology. And then where can I apply this into my area of work? There's another way to look at the same thing from another dimension, that you are doing something new. Here is a process, here is a problem, there is a factory, you're trying to do something. And currently it takes so much effort, so much resources, so much something to do this thing. Now, is there a better way? Like, for example, earlier, if you wanted to do a geographical survey, there used to be a man who used to go with a tripod and with a total station and do all the surveys. And if you are going to lay a new road or a railway, it would take months for you to do the surveys and do all that. Now what you do, you have things like LIDAR, which is laser detection and ranging. You have photogrammetry. You mount that on a drone or a helicopter. You just fly that thing over the area of what you want to do. And in less than 1/10 or 1/20th of the time that you did the same thing in the past, you got the entire thing digitized. You got a digital map of what you need to do, and you give it to the software, you process it, and you have everything on your desktop. So sometimes new technologies enable you to do something that took a month to do to be done in 2 days. So being entrepreneurial within an existing corporate means that you have the hunger or you have the interest to look at existing processes, apply the technology prowess that you have to see how it can be better. Or conversely, look at a new technology and say, hey, with this technology, like for example, with the Internet of Things, now you suddenly realize that if you connect sensors and a gateway to a certain mission, which is lying somewhere remotely and far away, you have the ability to see across geographies and across thousands of miles what is happening to that mission at that point of time. Now, the ability to remotely monitor something is a technological capability. Now, how do you harness that technology capability to remotely monitor or operate or control a certain mission far away? And how does that application give you a business benefit is where you apply your entrepreneurship and innovation to get benefits to the business.
Fantastic. Given that we have a very less time to kind of conclude this meeting, so if I have to summarize this in about 5 takeaways, right? First is digital is more of a way of thinking, not just technology, right? Secondly, as a youth, be a specialist, have multi-faceted skills, but always be specialist, whether it is a civil engineering or electrical engineering or bachelor in commerce. Be a specialist in what you do, because that is what going to lay some stepping stone for you to advance in your career, right? And we also talked about whether it is entrepreneurial or a career opportunity. There are tremendous opportunities at both ways, yeah, and both of them intermix. At this moment of time, you might not know when it will interface or when it will converge, but it is going to converge in your life, right? So currently, if you're going with an entrepreneurial spirit, hire the right talent. If you're actually choosing a career, have that fire burning within you so that you can actually spin off and do great disruptions in life. Always be on a learning mode. These days you have tools which will help you to learn at your own pace. So always be open with your thinking of your learning, and have a have a positive attitude towards people, have a positive attitude towards you. Maybe there are situations like this pandemic that might affect you. but there is going to be the end of the tunnel soon, right? So I think if I can summarize this, it's the key takeaways is have a fantastic attitude, a positive attitude. There are a lot of things that are going to happen in the future, so be ready for you to embrace the new normal. Thank you so much, team. Thank you so much, Mr. Anandachena, Prashant, Mohammed.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Thank you so much.
And
Sada,
best wishes to everybody who's listening in.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Sada. Thanks so much, Mr. Ananta, Dr. Prashant, Mohammed, Sanhita. I mean, it was a wonderful description of our digital world and what it takes to get there, be there, and get successful. As you rightly said, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of life, and there is a digital career for everyone. As our worlds collide, as the physical and the digital embrace each other, and I think that's the future. And as rightly said by the panel, I think it's about attitude, it's about willingness to learn, to relearn, to upskill, and to be in context to the needs of your organization and to the needs of, I think, taking it the Mohammed's way, mankind. So thanks again, lovely session. And I thank each one of you from the bottom of our hearts for taking time out and sharing your ideas and opinions. And I'm sure the youth is charged to take more, to deep dive and deep into the digital world and discover the many opportunities it has to present. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sunil.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
everyone.
much. Thanks. Yeah.